In this modern age of cinema, where cameos, gimmicks, sequels, and multiverses are all the rage, you have to turn to smaller budget indie releases to find those original, creative, memorable ideas. And no film I've seen in the last 5 years embodies creativity better than Hundreds of Beavers. Directed by Mike Cheslick, co-written by Cheslick and Ryland Brixton Cole Tews, and starring Tews in the lead role, Hundreds of Beavers is without exaggeration one of the greatest comedies I've ever seen. The premise goes, Jean Kayak is an amateur fur trapper who comes into conflict with various forest critters, featuring but not limited to an assortment of hard-working, dangerous, and hilarious beavers. The film's beauty lies in its deceptive simplicity. What comes across as a simple, silent comedy that harkens back to the stunt-filled physicality of a Buster Keaton or Three Stooges film slowly unfolds to be an unbelievably inventive and clever work that draws from all eras of comedy, with particular strength leaning towards the absurdity and wackiness of our current modern era. The quick pace and wit of Hundreds of Beavers felt equal parts a classic silent film as it did a modern Edgar Wright comedy or an early 2000s episode of SpongeBob. The film has such an excellent mastery and understanding of physicality and the pure comedic value of action and reaction. You have your classic hits, falls, and over-the-top explosions, but the film also sets up jokes that play with your expectations on the punchline, only for you to realize an hour later that the film was setting up an entirely different joke with a punchline you would have never seen coming. Hundreds of Beavers takes the idea of setup and punchline in comedy and flips it in a way that had me laughing out loud in the third act as I was thinking about all of the clever build-up and clues that were hidden in plain sight in the first film. This movie isn't just funny, it's really, really smart. Cheslick has a great eye for humor in hits and expression, reminding me of something you'd find in a classic Jackie Chan film, with the absurdity dialed up to 11 here given the premise. Every single visual gag, stunt, crash, and fall feels thought out to make it as visually interesting and hilarious as possible. This has thankfully helped with a lot of great character acting, not just from our leading hero Jean Kayak and the rest of the main human cast, but all of the animal characters played by actors in ridiculous mascot costumes. Every movement is exaggerated to convey the characters in comedy, and something as simple as one of the beavers slowly turning their heads is so hilarious in the film, given the setup and work that goes into it. It might sound like I'm overselling or overanalyzing something as simple as a head movement, but I promise you that it's all so important to the film's charm. The sound design and music complement the physical performances. Don't let the guise of this being a silent film fool you. This film is loud and proud, and just like the physical comedy, will exaggerate every sound effect to just the right amount. Almost every action in the film has a great and punchy sound to go with it. There's also great repetition within the sound design. You walk away from the film remembering certain tunes, chimes, sound effects because of how often they're played. From a woodpecker's knocking to Jean Kayak's casual whistle as he explores the wilderness, the playfulness of the film is one that I think would resonate with that inner child in all of us, that no matter how old or jaded we grow, sometimes in life, there's nothing funnier than someone falling on their face and eating shit. The movie is low budget, and it uses its budgetary constraints to great effect. What would be considered scrappy or cheap for other films is this film's greatest tool. Nearly every scene in the film uses obvious green screens, editing that blends real performances with animation that's comped into the shots. It's like watching a collage come to life, and it all works. The animated elements are never trying to convince you that they're real, but combined with the black and white style of the film, the rapid editing and pace of the movie, everything works in this strange, almost cartoon-like world created by Cheslick. I mentioned SpongeBob before as what feels like inspiration for the film, but truly, so much of the film's fast pacing, comedy, and ability to make nearly every single moment feel either clever or comedic, combined with a healthy dose of practical elements, puppetry, green screen, and animation, I felt like I was watching a feature-length silent comedy straight from the mind of Steven Hillenburg, which I mean as the highest possible compliment I could give. There's also a surprising but strong inspiration from video games, which can not only be noticed in the soundtrack featuring the track Left Bank 2, which was famously also featured in Little Big Planet, but that video game influence is emphasized in the structure and progression as well. The film basically has a world map that's used predominantly in the first half as we follow Jean Kayak on his quest, which also involves setting up traps, solving problems that come his way, improvising when something doesn't go his way. There's a direct track of progression for John as he uses his captured furs to purchase new weapons and tools to capture even more furs and improve his capabilities. It very much feels like watching someone progress through an open world game, completing side quests along the way and making constant discoveries. Even the whole setup of buying the furs is stylized like a video game menu. The filmmakers themselves have even cited YouTube Let's Plays of games as inspiration for the film, and this love of video games could not feel more honest and genuine. Hundreds of Beavers is more faithful to the video game experience than other actual licensed video game film adaptations. The film has to convey a lot of information using no dialogue, relying on clever editing, acting, cutaways, and graphics that make it very easy to keep track of not only what Jean Kayak is doing and feeling, but also what he's thinking next, where he is, where he's going. If you're a fan of procedurals, films with a simple premise that involve characters having to solve something or work through a problem, and when I say this, I think of films like Ex Machina, The Man from Earth, 9 Days, 12 Angry Men, you'll find a lot of that shared DNA with Hundreds of Beavers. Given the creativity behind every choice of the film, it's infinitely rewatchable, as I think of all the details I missed out on my first watch, and the smaller, subtle setups for the jokes that pay off towards the ending of the film. I could go on and on, but I love this film. I really love it in a way that I feel with few films, and unlike many other comedies I've seen, I could not tell you what my favorite joke was from the entire movie. That answer would change every 5 minutes as I was watching, and I imagine it'll continue to change once I return to it. There's really nothing more I can say without spoiling the brilliance or dragging this topic on. I could go on for hundreds of hours about my love of this film, but instead I'll just leave it at this. If you're at all a fan of any of the films or inspiration I mentioned previously, or a lover of scrappy indie films made with loads of passion and love, or you're just in for a damn good laugh, then you need to watch